So this is testplug.org. We are minimize this. All right, we're on. Chat is live. So we're getting back to working on our model from last time. It is definitely a little harder than it was before. Um, the putty, having now almost a week to dry, is ready to be manipulated in some new ways. Let's go ahead and switch over to that camera now. And we're going to go bam there. All right. Sorry for mic noise there. All right. So we have our creature here that we have molded. You can see that it definitely is plenty hard to work with there. I'm basically going to be working today on, I built these while we were in between times. They're just some posts I built, some little round cylinders. The goal is to take these and make these so I can use them as connection points for when it's molded later on. So I'll need to drill out some holes and glue in these to make my figure articulated. This is pretty hard stuff. I haven't really played with drilling it too much, but you can definitely carve into it, so it shouldn't be too bad to drill. I'm just going to mark some points on this. This stuff is with a pencil. You can make some lines and make some decisions. I'll also be doing some sanding to some of this stuff to get it to the shape I want it to get. Right now the head is very much just a basic, almost like I said, it has that kind of almost Charmander look to it right now. I'll be changing some of that because I'm not building a Charmander, even though it kind of looks like it. For those of you who don't know, Charmander is a Pokemon of the fire variety. And it's one of the 3 classic Pokemon that you start off the beginning of the original games with. One of which is not Pikachu. Pikachu, originally you had to find. Pikachu wasn't a thing till the TV show started, and then later on they made a a third version of the game where you started with Pikachu and Pikachu actually followed you around. But that's enough for Pokemon history. The funny thing about that is I actually have never completed a Pokemon game. I was just a manager at the toy store where we ran Pokemon competitions. So I had to be up on my Pokemon knowledge back in the early 90s. One of Jeremy's many jobs. All right, well, let's get some tools out and let's see what we can do as far as for sanding and for getting these to look a little bit more the shape I want them to look in. I've decided that I do want them to have clothing, so I'm going to be sanding the body style down a little bit so it looks a bit more like the folds of clothing as opposed to just a smooth shape. I got these guys here. Just some small hand files. These are from Green Stuff World. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but it's a great miniature store for miniature models, painting supplies, and stuff like that. I believe they're European based, but they have some cool stuff. Let's see here. So we'll hold off on the body. I did put a belly button in there, which is might have to be filled in later on, because if he's wearing clothing, I guess I could Pooh Bear him, so make him have a shirt just over top of his lower half, which would be kind of comical too. I'll think about that. For right now, let's work about legs and hands. So I'm going to put some definition in here around where the pant leg would be, going into the shoe. Stuff actually sands pretty easily. You can do your nails while you're working on this as well. Some of this you probably could do in the molding process beforehand, but I wasn't 100% sure on the design when I was molding it, so I just wanted to get it close, and then I figured I could fix up some of the other details at that point. So I got some different lines scribed in there, but you do want to have them smoothed out a little bit also. You don't want it so hard of lines that this shape is kind of a very cartoony shape, so I do want to keep a little bit of the cartooniness to it. What am I going to do for shoes? I don't know where flat is yet because I don't have the figures connected, but I think I am going to put a little bit of a line around where the shoe would be, but I might wait on that till I get a little bit more of a definite stance for him. Legs are going to go on like so. Yeah. I'm going to have him bend over a little bit, haunched over. I see a lot of people with this stuff actually do a lot of this in layers too. So it might be that this isn't the final layer and I'm adding to it to get the body a little bit more where we want it. Let's work on the hands a little bit. So I'm not going to divide the fingers, but I want definite definition on the fingers as to, he's not a Simpsons, he does have 4 fingers. And actually that dates way before Simpsons. Mickey Mouse only has 3 fingers also. I don't know if I want to put knuckle definition in there. I do want a degree of definition, but I don't know how far I want that. Like, I don't know. Typically your pinky's a little shorter than your other fingers. Am I going to bring the pinky back? Or am I going to keep it kind of lined up with the others? I do have a definite arc to the hand, but I don't know if I necessarily... I'm just working on this with a triangle shaped just to get some definite edges in there, and then I'll come back afterwards and smooth some of that stuff out, kind of like I was doing on the leg a minute ago. I need to get better about making announcements that this thing is going to happen. I'm trying to do this every Monday at 7 o'clock. I put a little blurb up in, I think, the last interview I made, but I don't know if it was enough of a blurb for people to know it was happening. I suppose I could do a little Instagram story here while we're at it. I wish I knew how to use this program better. So I am doing some live figure making here on the YouTube's TESTPLUG.org, and I am working on the figures that I started last week. Just want to say hey to everyone and check out if nothing else, check out the new interview. I interviewed Callie Park this week. It's a great interview. Some insights into her world as far as fantasy art and putting stuff up on cons. So if you want to join in on some figure making, I'm there in the YouTubes. Check me out. Thanks for watching TESTPLUG. Wasn't that exciting? You guys watching me do a live Instagram story. Maybe I can edit that out, I don't know. Alright, so where are we? We're here in hands. I do want to, let's see, do I want to put knuckle detail in there? I keep getting this strange feedback in my setup. I think this whole wrist has to come down a bit. So with that, I'm going to use the flat one here. And I'm just going to bring the width of this wrist down a little bit. If you look at your palm does have some definite creasing here where it comes in. So if you can kind of make those lines up, it definitely puts definition into the hand. So with this, I'm going to bring this whole piece in. Trying to do this without over shaking the camera, just so it gives that definition to where the palm starts. And then once again, I'll take and I'll smooth some of that out. Okay. Need to probably put some music on the background. I don't know how that's a thing you do. Probably have to just play YouTube's license-free music. Alright, so got our definition in there. Now I just need to bring this down to size to meet with the rest of everything else. Okay. And then here also, bring this down. Try to keep hard edges out of this as much as I can. Actually, really happy with that. Take some natural roundness back into that. So I'm going to use the round off one here, and just barely the tip of it, just to kind of round off edges of the fingers a little bit, so there's definition between them, but not definition. Dust off here. Probably go over this with, like, I don't know, 1000 grit sandpaper after I'm done, just to clean up any of the handprint slash sanding spots. These are probably, I don't know, like a 200 grit, these files. So they're not doing a whole lot of marring, but there definitely is some sand marks from they've been sanded. This foot I seem to do a little bit better on the pants creasing when I was actually sculpting it. Edge in there first, make a definite crease. And then come back afterwards. So I'm pretty happy with those two legs. So you can see where I've taken and put some creases in there just to give them a little bit of a clothing feel. I think when I smooth it back over, I don't know how much of that white will stay there. Even with the brush, some of it goes away. But I definitely will need to go over this with a little bit better sandpaper, just to, or a little bit finer sandpaper, I should say, not better, just to clean up some of that. And there's still, I don't know if you can see this or not, there is still a lot of fingerprint marking on that. I'm going to tone this down just a little bit. There, that's a little bit better. Yeah, there's still a lot of fingerprint marking on there. I will need to pick up a drill of some sort. Maybe I'll run downstairs really quick and get that. I'm going to put you on hold for a minute, and I'm going to go down and get a drill. So I'll be right back. We're back. Nice thing about having a tool shop downstairs is typically if I run into something, I can just kind of go back down and find what I need. Grabbed drills of different sizes so that we can try to make the right size holes. I'm hoping this stuff doesn't have too much in it as far as bubbles or stuff that will make it break. I've seen people drill into it pretty successfully, so I'm not too worried about it. Just the biggest thing is run it slow. Don't, it's little pieces you're holding, so try to keep your fingers, as free as you can. If you're under the age of usable for tools, then ask for a parent's help with it. Or if you know me, give me a call and I'll see what I can do to help you out. All right, so let's get back on this then. All right. Break it down just a little bit more here. Hopefully you can see that stuff now. Okay, so we definitely have an inside and outside to our legs. I'm thinking, so I did these rounds in a couple different sizes. I did 2 of these. They're roughly the same size. This one and this one, and this should be... No, there should be one more size here. Might have rolled away. That'll be a good lesson too, because that one's definitely long enough I can cut in half. And I can show you a good tool for cutting stuff like that in half. If I know where it is. Oh, I know where it is. Alright, well, let's figure out what size drill we need for these. So for the legs, I'm going to use these bigger ones. And the trick to that is with an assortment here, you just kind of hold it up and you eye it out. It's looking like it's going to be that guy there. This one might be a little too big. I don't know. The goal is realistically to drill these out and to still use, I think I'm going to use this one. It's a little bit small, but then I can sand this down to size. So for the legs, I'm going to use a 5/16 hole. You probably could find some Dremel bits for this kind of stuff. Actually, I want to do a little bit smaller first. That's a good, put a good starter hole on it. And for that, I'm going to use probably a 3/8. I'll just do that. I'm going to go ahead and do a starter hole on all of them. The fun thing about doing all this stuff on camera is that it takes a lot longer than you do when you think about it later on. Alright, so we're going to put legs. Pencil in. Right about there. Hey, Jonathan's on. How you doing, bud? Haven't talked to you in a bit. Too long, too long. Oh, this is my pencil, that's why. Jonathan is one of my oldest friends. I had friends in Wisconsin before I left, but I was pretty young. So my formidable years were spent, well, wasting time in any way we could there at the Pollock abode in Winter Park, Florida. A lot of my fondest memories are things we did there and mischief we got into. But yeah, so it's it's fun remembering some of that stuff. All right, so that's where my leg hole is. We're going to put a little pilot hole in there first. And we'll put a bigger one in. I'm sure there's ways to do this with chatting too, but I haven't gotten there yet. Alright, and then we'll go ahead and we'll line up the other side here. Pencil mark that a little bit. right. Alright, yeah, it drills really easy. Alright. There's our holes there. I suppose I could drill all the way through, but I don't know exactly where I'm going to put the legs yet. I want them to be individual holes because at this point I'm not talented enough to have everything line up perfectly. I think it'll look fine in the end outcome. I think later on the road it's something I might think about worrying about a little bit more, is making sure like shoulder and armholes are lined up. The armholes actually I probably could just go ahead and drill all the way through. I did carve a little starter hole there. We want those just a little bit lower, I think. And I'm going to use a knife to, since this is not a smooth surface, I'm going to use a knife just to bore out just a little bit more here, and then I'll give my drill something to eat into. Man, is that where? Let's see. I think it almost is right in between the two of them, so we'll try it on this side instead. Here's my right arm here. I want that right about there. So we're going to do that. And that'll get us, actually it lined up pretty good with the other side there at the first hole. But let's go ahead and we'll do this one all the way through and see how that works. Make sure we're lined up there, straight all the way across. There we go. All right, we have a body cavity other than that one. And then for our head, head kind of right in there. All right, and that'll be a good enough hole to be a starter hole. Yeah, Ninja Turtles in the stairwell. There probably is, I don't know what, there's, at one point we had every G.I. Joe guy available. We got into Mask. Was Ryan doing Ninja Turtles? I don't remember. But yeah, there was definitely some stuff stored back in the back of those stairs. I don't know how much stuff you moved out into your place, but maybe Ryan still has some in his apartment. Alright, so now we got our leg holes pre-drilled. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, that's definitely got to shave down a bit. But it's a good start. if you had a drill press, you probably could use a drill press for this. I'm not going at high speeds by any means to turn any of this. It's pretty low key. I did do construction for quite a while, so I'm pretty confident with my drill holding skills. But, you know, if you're not as brave and or unintelligent, it might be worth rigging this up where you're not just holding it by hand. Like I said, you could do this with a Dremel really easily too. You could save the Ninja Turtles and give them to your grandkids pretty soon, Grandpa Pollock. You're a lot closer to that than I am. Alright. So that should be good. We'll sand those down a little bit. Pegs will fit into those holes. There's the whole idea of magnet hinges or magnet joints on figures, and it's nice when it works out. I'm still pretty new in the figure building game, so I think for the most part they're just going to be pegged and held in there like this with pegs. Now here's a tricky part, is doing the legs themselves, just because you don't have a lot of meat here, so this is definitely something we're going to take a little slower. I might even just glue the pegs on just for molding purposes, and then I won't have to worry about drilling into this surface as much. But I did want defined holes on the body itself where the pegs will stick into. Let's see, is this peg? I'm going to have to make that a little bit bigger for the arms. BB guns in the air conditioning vents. Would that still be there? Somebody's got to have changed out filters or moved grates at this point and found BB guns. But then again, maybe not. I mean, your grandma definitely wouldn't have, and I don't know if your mom and dad have done any remodeling since then that they would have found some of that stuff. Man, it's hilarious. Yeah, they could definitely be there. Remember that we took that plastic handled rifle and sawed off the back of it to make a sawed off shotgun BB gun? I mean, it was still just a BB gun, but we were cool. We were so cool. No, I have all my legs. We're good. So I got some of my merchandise in for my shop. The Linus, we'll switch. I was wearing the t-shirt with the last interview, but we also have, I don't know how cameras work. There, it focuses on that. Your testplug.org sticker. Your Imperiant Walker. I actually got a couple more things from a couple of their buddies for our next art project, and I moved that so I could take a better picture of it, and I don't know what I did with it right now. But I'll have some more t-shirts up, some more designs coming up in the next week or so. Some of my old art from t-shirt days past, and probably some more different art from kids. I enjoy that stuff. It's fun seeing how their brain works on that stuff. Sadly, it's not that different from how my brain works, but it's fun nonetheless. All right, let's get back to making some figures. All right, so I now have the correct size drill bit in there for our different size peg for the arms. It is the same size as you can so greatly see there. And I'm going to go ahead and just drill this out all the way through. Once again, just take it slow. And yeah, that's good. That'll work. For the arms, shave down that side a little bit. Do I want to go deeper on those? I don't know. Alright, so that is this size there. Alright. So that's going to be the same size we use for the head too. The head I want to move over just a little bit, so I'm going to have to carve away a little bit with this hole, just with a knife. This stuff does carve actually really well too. I've been playing around with some other ideas while I'm using it. Oh gosh, Norm. Man, I haven't thought about that in a long time. Yeah, the name rings a bell, and I'm trying to remember exactly what was Norm. I don't know. I'll have to call you after this and give you a talk. You're in Florida. What are you still doing up? It's 10:30 there. You're a working man. Don't you have to be work in the morning? Maybe you're not a working man. Maybe you're in the same boat I'm in, an unemployed man right now. Was Norm one of Ryan's friends? Or Ryan's age group friends, I should say? Okay, so now we're going to drill the hole for the head. I rounded it out a little bit more. There we go. Having a variable speed drill or at least one that you can control the speed and the trigger, is a good thing for this, because it allows you to have some control. And then you have a perfect hole. Let's see, that lighting is right. There you go. Yeah. Well, there's our holes for our body parts. And I got a mess here that I got to clean up a little bit, otherwise I can't work in this area. So I'm going to clean that up a little bit. But that's why you do the stuff over paper, so you can clean it up easier. Right? Sure. That's why I did that. Had nothing to do with the paper already being on the thing when I started. All right. So from my art kit over here, I'm going to grab, yes, a saw. So this is a saw for like balsa wood projects and things like that. It's pretty fine tooth, so I might have to end up getting something a little rougher tooth for this stuff. But we'll see how it works on these little jobbies here. I think once you're through enough, yeah, breaks off the rest of the way, no problem. Take our flat file and clean that up a little bit. Just want a nice clean edge for gluing. Oh, crap, yeah, Norm. Whew. We were young one time, Jonathan. Do you remember that? After we were done collecting Joes, they really went off the rail. Like, everything turned fluorescent. You'd have one of my favorite from the later GI Joes is you have a lot of people. I mean, you like arm-held rocket launchers were a thing that actually exists in the military, and that's fine. I get it. It's the propulsion is based around the rocket itself, not against anything that would be pulling you back to the earth. But not they have these that have like 4 or 5 missiles, and it's like a guy's walking around with this one huge thing carrying like 4 or 5 giant missiles on it, and it's like attached to his helmet. So yeah, in theory, like targeting works wherever your eyes go. The missile would shoot out after it, but to have a 4 or 5 like box like this on the side of your head, well, let's just say G.I. Joe wasn't always very realistic. Not like today's toys. Well, I guess probably the same exact as today's toys. All right, so I don't know if you can see that or not. That's all I'm going to use for a nub for the arms. I can cut this down after I've done the molding process to whatever size I want. But this will give me enough to hold it in place while I glue it. I am going to roughen up the surface here a little bit. just so it has something to glue to activate on. This epoxy is pretty solid stuff. Grab some epoxy here. Ooh, I'm using fancy black. There we go. We have our arm all done. Put the cap on this. And we'll cut another piece for the other arm. Once again, clean that up with the file. So I'm going to work with Chris Jacobson a little bit from the woodworking interview. One of the other things he does is resin casting for some of the wood turning he does. So I'm going to work with him a little bit on some of the mold making process. I've done it a long time ago, but he's done a little bit more currently. So we'll pick his brain a little bit as we're doing that. And maybe we'll get it on tape. If model making doesn't work for you, you can get a career in a nail salon. A lot of them are opening back up lately, so it could be a nice future for someone. All right, let's scar that up a little bit, just so it has something to glue onto. I'm not going into super detail on these just because this is just more of a learning project. And should give me the basic ins and outs of doing some simple things. We want this arm kind of going out a little bit. So we're going to glue that there. Might have to hold this one for a couple seconds. This is the same glue that I used in my speaker stand video, and it would, if we had the spray up here, dry instantly, but I don't like to necessarily spray that stuff around in my bedroom. This doesn't really have an odor to it, but the spray has just a little bit of chemical smell to it. So that's something I would suggest doing outside if you were going to be using that product. The stuff I'm using is from Starbond. And this camera up here. You can get it in a couple different thicknesses. You can get it in clear or in black. Chris actually uses it with his woodworking, but you can use it in about anything. It's basically just super glue, but it's nice. The different thicknesses help you out sometimes, fill up some voids, or whereas regular super glue sometimes is super thin and just runs out of wherever you're trying to glue it to. Alright, next we have some legs, and we got to figure out how we're doing this head. Where are we mounting this? I think we're going to go pretty much a straight axis, so right off the neck there. I do want to also do some modeling for either a headpiece or some eyes, just something to make it look not so scully. Not that there's anything, everybody loves a good skull, but I do want to have this a little bit more life to it. So I'll figure out something for some eyes, maybe. Do I want to go deeper with that? Maybe I do want to go just a little bit deeper. Do I still have that bit in there? Or do I still have that bit in there? The legs, I think, are going to be deep enough. The head, maybe just a little bit more. Should have got a drink while I was out getting my drill. And yeah, we're still going to have to sand that down a little bit. Alright, so once again we're going to take off a piece of this. Clean it up with some sandpaper. Sandpaper with a file. That's called a file, not sandpaper. And once I get these pegs glued in on the legs and I get them so where they can kind of stand, I can then figure out how to flatten out the feet enough to get them to stand where I need them. Because that's the nice thing with figures is when they actually stand up after you're done with it, because nobody likes a floppy figure. Alright, so that is inside there. We put little scuff marks in there to give it something to stick to. Use a little bit more glue this time. Hold that in place for a little while. So when I was a lot younger, I used to take my brother's models and I would chop them all up. He would make a model car of whatever dream car project he had going on at the time. But I would take and I would usually cut them up and burn or melt certain areas and make what was essentially Mad Max vehicles out of them. Or back to the G.I. Joe talk, Dreadnought vehicles out of them, which obviously had inspiration from Mad Max. All right, that should be good. But it was because I mean a model is about this big, and it's a weird scale. So like your typical action figure is a 3.75, and models were I want to say 124 is your typical model scale. So they didn't coincide with each other. So you couldn't really use it for your typical Star Wars figure or G.I. Joe figure. There were some things that were a little bit on the smaller scale, like Mask later came on and they were a smaller scale. So those would pretty much fit in most cars. But even that wasn't a good scale for it. It was just a little off, which I have weird scale issue things. My brain doesn't like to see things that aren't the same scale. Like I know it's wrong, and so it bothers me. I went to Legoland in California, and it bothered me because they had Duplo blocks for Lego block things just because they were bigger and they were probably easier to make. But in my head, I knew that those are Duplo blocks and those aren't what you'd actually make that stuff out of. And for some reason in my head just bothered me the whole time I was there. Not to mention that place needs a little bit of revamping. It's definitely seen better days. If everything's been to the old Legoland in California, give them your money because they obviously are a dying scenario. Legos are, you know. But yeah, so I would make Mad Max vehicles or cars, but then I didn't have any action figures really that in my head fit inside of them. And it always kind of bothered me. Now you could buy like pit crew members or usually some type of team mascot for whatever race car or stuff like that for most model companies, or even a lot of military stuff has military figures that are to that scale, but they're not they're not bendable, so you have to kind of cut them and make them fit. And at 12 years old, I wasn't buying my own stuff anyways. I was using whatever I had from my brother's hand-me-down. So like I said, I was just a frustrated young boy with the current condition of my models to action figures. All right. Give this a second or two to dry. Oh, look at that. The iPhone is so concerned for me, it's telling me it's my bedtime. The funny thing is I set that up, I think right as the lockdown was starting, because I was going to take advantage of this lockdown to get healthier and get better sleep patterns. I went to bed at 4 o'clock last night, so I'm guessing it's not working. All right. Let's see if I can prop that up a little bit over here, maybe. All right, now all I have is a leg left. Clean up this a little bit here. Well, I think this will be about it, because I want to let this set for a good 12 hours before I start really using it on the figure. So I think with this last glute piece, I think that'll be about it for tonight. I'm at a good spot where I want to be. If these all fit and are shaping and looking the right direction, I'll file off the feet. I don't know yet if I'm going to add any more detail to the bodies and stuff. Like I said, this is just a practice piece, so I don't want anything too complicated. I want the mold to be able to pull off pretty easily from my model. Yeah, so I think this will be it for tonight. I glue this last piece on. Oh, I need to scuff this up a little bit. Ooh, and I didn't do that in the head. I hope that sets okay. This is pretty good glue. I don't even know that I necessarily need to do this, but it doesn't hurt, and it's not hurting me at all. It's just giving it this little bit of area that's a rough area to glue onto. I definitely made the feet big enough that I can kind of file them in any direction and make them flat. That's why I didn't put any detail into them yet, because making them flat is maybe more important than the detail, because how often do you really look at feet unless you're that person? Yeah, I think having the hands and head detailed is a more important part of this. And the belly button, I put extra time to make sure the belly button was properly. All right, well, that is our fifth and final piece. Put that cap on there. I'm going to change this here. Just want to thank everyone for watching. I know this isn't super exciting yet, but we're getting there, and we're making something. And if it helps you guys figure out what you want to make on your own, then we've served our purpose. The goal is Mondays and potentially Thursdays for live streaming. Thursdays I might actually put a compiled something up, something that is a project I've worked on through the week. But now that I have the interviews down pat a little bit, which, by the way, check out the Kelly Park interview. She's a neat gal. She's been doing this art thing for a while, so she's got a lot of it pretty well down pat as far as her style, and much more so than I do. I'm way all over the place with style and technique. But yeah, it was a good interview. It was fun. And then that's about it. That's where I'm at. Thanks for watching TESTPLUG.